Everybody. Sorry we're late. Tipping points and puzzle pieces. Wednesday, 1 o'clock. The most human hour of your week. And why is it the most human hour of your week? Because we talk about humanity. We talk about bringing people together. We talk about ways to connect in community, and the fact that we don't even really understand what community is anymore. So Marwan is sick and is possibly going to try and come on, but he's been fighting being ill for a couple of weeks. I'm very sorry about the background. My camera's being very funky today. I'm going to try and figure out what the problem is before next week. The sad part is that Marwan has the footage from Stone Soup that he was editing together, so we could talk about that a little bit, which would be building on this. But that's not going to happen today. So I am going to try and put together something very special for next week, which will be both about food and about gardening and about community. And so let's talk today a little bit. There's so many things I want to say, and it would be so much easier if Marwan and I were talking because it gives you a better perspective than just me talking. And but to that end, I want to tell a little story. I spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people, as you might imagine. We actually do community work with the community all over, whoever you are, wherever you are. We talk to anybody and everybody. We're about pushing community gardens. We'll talk about why that's important and why the Food for All project is important. But before I get there, I've been talking about community gardens for a long time, and I met a gentleman who does this. He lives in Kitsap Peninsula, and he and his family do a garden for their entire neighborhood. And they engage with a farmer that lives close to them, and they grow tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers and zucchini, and they give it to their neighborhood. And they ask their neighbors every year, "What do you want to eat this year? What do you want us to grow?" And they grow it for them. And I was talking to him about coming forward and going to an event we're planning in March and another one we're planning in May, and talking about his experience giving to the community. And he went and talked to his wife about it and the farmer about it. And he came back to me saying, I was shocked that in this conversation, we did not see eye to eye on this. And this is the truth about communication and community and relationship in this world. We all have different experiences. We all think different ways. And when we're in a relationship with somebody for many, many, many years, we kind of think they think like we do until you come up to a point where they're going, "What are you, crazy? Or why would I do this? Why would I think this way?" And that's what he ran into. What the feedback he got is, "We're doing this here. Why would we talk to anybody in Bremerton or Bainbridge Island? They don't matter to us. We're doing this for our neighborhood." And therein lies an example of the thinking. The thinking we have been taught since birth, has been generational thinking for decades and centuries, that it's about us and about our neighborhood. What everyone is not recognizing yet, though it's going to become painfully obvious in the near future, is we are all interconnected. What happens in one spot happens to all spots eventually. We do not live in a bubble. We live in a world where we share the resources, where we all live together. And while we are taught to ignore that, and we are taught to protect our own and hold on to our own, we do not thrive until we thrive together. And that is why things are getting worse and worse and worse. Now, I had a conversation about this many times. I did the presentation about the economy, about how money is changed in view, how we've gone from one place to another. And it's not all about capitalism. That's just a symptom of the whole. We have to start having conversations with each other so that we can understand that we need each other. All of us need each other in order for us to fix what's broken. And in this case, he asked me, "What do I do?" And I said, "You start a conversation." And it's going to be a lot of conversations. And you try and understand why this person who's close to you feels that they can't do more than they can do. And and all of us feel that way or know people that feel that way. It's all of our culture. We are all constantly being we're constantly all making ourselves smaller. We are not connecting to people. The internet did not help. The information age exacerbated the problem and accelerated the deterioration. And it's not because we're walking around our cell phones. Trust me, that's a huge problem too. It's because we are now seeing the results almost immediately of long term messaging that is negative and unhelpful to us. We are seeing the result of hate. We are seeing the result of our negative thinking, our negative impact on the world. We're seeing the result of the fear being presented instantaneously. It's happening so fast that it is seemingly more painful and more and worse than it's ever been. Trouble is, it's always been this way. It's been this way for thousands of years, and now we are seeing it in our face all of the time, and it's overwhelming us. And we start taking drugs. We start doing, drinking more. We start just trying to not see anything outside of us because all we can do is survive. The thing is that isn't surviving. That's dying slowly. Surviving is connecting with people, learning to trust them, building relationships with them, and creating the capacity to thrive together. This cultural artificial intelligence, let's use the boogeyman, artificial intelligence that is our organic artificial intelligence is how we describe our culture. We have to reprogram it. And the way we reprogram it is to, hey, come tell us about your experience. Let's put our pieces on the table and figure out how to work together better. And I know this is really esoteric and very frightening, and a lot of you, can't hear this. But breaking bread together, being human together, learning to trust each other, these are the ways that we can reprogram the culture that is creating an unlivable world for us humans. And we have to do this together. And we have to do it by creating one relationship and another. So, what does this have to do with Food for All? And I wanted to go back to the story, is that it all started with the Food for All. We are trying to get a garden in every neighborhood in Kitsap County. Now, secondary story, I was at the Starbucks over in Kitsap Way and National today, because it was Have Coffee with a Cop. And I was curious, and I've talked to our law enforcement people on several occasions, but never liked the conversations I had today. And in that conversation I had with the Sheriff's Department, with the Washington State Patrol, with Port Orchard Police Department, with the Bremerton Police Department, all of those conversations were around how do we build community and how do we build capacity, because they are all aware of dangers, of disasters, of climate change. They don't have a plan for it because it's hard to plan for. I mean, they are, law enforcement trying to get things done, but this is really hard stuff. And it's going to take somebody that's outside of a bureaucracy having conversations amongst a lot of different people to get where we need to go. But when I started saying we want to have people creating gardens together, all in every neighborhood in Kitsap County, to create food security and to create relationships and to create the ability to work together to change things, they were all pretty excited about it. They thought it was a pretty keen idea. And that allowed us to start another conversation about how law enforcement can integrate back into the community and stop being distrusted by everybody. And the other day I put a word up on the Kitsap Resiliency Project page, discernment. And I have not put one up today, but I will. And the thing is that we hear a lot of bad things about police officers. We hear a lot of bad things about how the police act with people of color. We hear a lot of bad things about police integrated with community and or not integrated with community, about the militarization of police. And there is truth in this. but it is not true universally. Um, and we need to see that, and that requires discernment, the ability to see beyond what we've heard and to understand the truth of the statement. Are they perfect? No. Are they helpful? In every way they can be, given what they have to work with and the limitations they have. Can there be better? Oh yes, but better would include community involvement, and that is vitally important to this. And they see that, and they like, and they want to do that, and they just are stuck like everybody else. How do we get there? And that's where this conversation that Marwan and I have, and that I'm working on today with you, to get people closer together, to find ways through gardening, through conversation, through breaking bread, to create a space in which relationships can be built and communities founded. So why are we doing this? I know it seems esoteric that community getting together is going to solve these things, but the first thing it does is it removes stigmas about people and group and race and all of these things, because we don't have those so much when we actually know somebody, when we actually get to know who they are. They may have not have voted the way we vote. They may not go to the church that we go to. They may be seemingly less social. They may not be socially graceful as we are, or they may be more socially graceful as we are, and we think that they're snobs or whatever. And these are all frames and bottles and silos that we put things in to label them, but they aren't true. They aren't truth. We as human beings are the compilation of all of our life experiences, all of our education, all of our trauma, all of our pain, all of the things that have formed us, and the things we've had to overcome, and the things we're still trying to deal with. We are human beings. We are flawed. We are broken, and we cannot not be broken because our culture is broken. We are afraid, and we feel alone. And while we can't put ourselves in other people's heads, we can be in relationship with people, and together we can do many, many more things. And I know you're tired of hearing this, but every time I say this, I want you to hear it clearly. The first three words of the United States Constitution are "we the people," but we have to be "we the people," not you the person, not the politicians you elect, not the bureaucracies that have been created. We, the people, are the ones that hold everybody accountable. We, the people, are what this is all supposed to be about, even though it isn't anymore. So we, the people, have to make those changes. And for that to happen somewhere down the line, we, the people, have to come together and talk and find out the multitude of things we have in common and the very few things we have different. And we have to be able to set those aside and talk about our humanity and the things that benefit the most of us. And we have to set priorities. That's what grassroots is all about. But we start that grassroots by creating capacity and a triple win situation by putting a garden in every neighborhood in Kitsap County. And I know that seems like a huge leap, and you're going, well, how is that going to work? Well, the process of gardening, okay, in your neighborhood, 20% of the people might be for it and willing to do the work and plant seeds and get the garden going. And that's enough. Somewhere along the line, when people get food that reduces their bills and the food tastes really good and is really strong and nutritious, they start changing their mind. And suddenly 20 becomes 30%, becomes 40%, becomes 50%. And if you don't get everybody in the neighborhood, that's okay. You won't. Not initially, not for a long time, because this work is generational work. It's seeds that you're planting now that will bear fruit 50 years, 100 years down the line. But in that process, a lot of good things are going to happen and a lot of changes will occur. And each of those little changes starts reprogramming our toxic culture to better support our humanity. We change our culture by changing our relationships with each other. And I know that there's somebody's out there going, well, do I have to go to therapy? You have to have relationships, and you have to be willing to do the work to look at yourself and look at your relationship and put your fear aside and to trust that a relationship can happen, and put aside all of the things that people tell you about relationships and what's a good relationship, what's a bad relationship. While it sells magazines and makes you watch shows, it really isn't very helpful for being human. All you have to do to have a good relationship is to be honest, to be human, and to be helpful. And in this, I have to say to you, how can I help? How can I help you find relationship with other people? How can I help you find community? I'm not a therapist. I am not a politician. I do not have a direct message for God from God. All I can say is we can help you find tools to have conversations and start planting the seeds that will be both a garden and a group of relationships that will strengthen and enrich your lives. And in the process, start changing the brokenness in our culture. And if that seems too much, that's okay. Maybe just buying a pack of seeds for one of your other neighbors will help, and start talking about, what's going on, and then find ways to eat together and share. Follow the Kitsap Resiliency Project on Facebook, and we will offer opportunities to engage. We'll have events where you can learn, and not just about gardening, but learn about um, how to think differently in your life that will make your life better. Because it's really, once you understand how it works, and I'm not selling, I'm also not a salesman, I'm not selling you anything. I'm simply saying we can, through relationship with each other, change our world. And that's going to require all of us, because you don't want the world of Mark. I don't want to be the one saying, well, you do this, you do this, you do this, because it won't fit everybody. It won't even fit me, really. It will be a world that has my vision, but it will not be a world for all of us. To have that happen, we need to have a framework, and we all have to bring our pieces to the table: our fear, our anxiety, our trauma, our hopes, our desires. We have to sit down and we have to be vulnerable. We have to talk to each other. We have to put aside our fear and our preconceived notions about who the other person is, and listen. And they have them listen to us. And then we have to talk about what's important to us. And through this process of building a relationship, becoming friends, we learn how to be human together, and we learn things that are important to us, and we can even roll up our sleeves and start working together to make those things more important. So now we go to the topic: food for all. We have several projects. Each one of them is a focus on things that humans desperately need in order to survive. We have water for all, we have power for all, we have shelter for all, and we have food for all. Food for all is a little different than the other ones, because food for all actually lays the foundation of building those relationships. So what we want to have is people who are courageous enough to and open to learning enough to come together with us and learn how to talk to their neighbors, and learn how important it is to provide food security. Kitsap Peninsula is a hard place to do this kind of project. It's hard because of the geographical location and design of it. We're a peninsula. We have the Hood Canal Bridge. We have the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. We have narrow roads going north and south through Belfair and Mason County. We have ferries that come across from um, Edmonds and Seattle to Kingston, to Bainbridge Island, to Bremerton. And if any of those or all of those become unavailable, we are isolated. It means food can't come to the peninsula. Power could be disrupted for a very long time. We have a situation where we are completely dependent on the outside. And part of this is, as Kitsap County, and let me add the other two difficulties. We have people who are military here who come and go and aren't really invested in the county itself. They're doing their tour and they're leaving. We also have people that come to the county, that are in the county, that are predominantly commuters. They spend all of their time on the boat and traveling back and forth. They really aren't here to the degree as the of people who live here. And then you have a lot of people who live here, but you got to understand there aren't a tremendous amount of jobs here. So a lot of those people are service providers, are lower income people, are people just trying to survive, and that's getting harder and harder and harder as rents go up and up and up. So it's a hard place. And if anything happens, it gets way harder, way faster with lack of electricity, with lack of food shipping in, medication, all of those things become far harder and are going to devastate us. Together with gardening, we can start creating the food resources we need to have local food production and have that at least starting to be taken care of. There's another phase this is phase one of the Food for All. Phase two is actually creating grow centers here to grow on a mass scale to provide to stores, to create jobs and more resources. But right now, I want to talk about gardening. I want to talk about putting a garden in your neighborhood. And if you don't have the space to have a garden, look for the gardeners in your neighborhood and go ask them, how can I help you? How can I help you grow more so more people get fed? What can we do together to feed our neighborhood? And that's the place you start the conversation. So I know that this is, I started late and it's going to be a little bit short, but it's much easier when I'm talking to Marwan because we get this interaction and I don't really want to spend 45 minutes lecturing you. I've said pretty much what I need to say. I am really happy that the law officers in this county are so open and forthcoming and want to engage with people and want to do better, um, and want people to engage with them. It was a beautiful thing. But more importantly, they're engaging with each other. Different agencies work together. And that's something I did not know that I'm very happy to have heard. Um, I'm very happy that the person I talked to who had the conversation with the wife is willing to go back and have that conversation. And as long as it takes her as many conversations have to have, so they can come to the same page that their story being told to a lot of other people is very little to give for a whole lot of positive outcome. But what we really need is we need you guys to step up. We need you guys to show up. We need you guys to actually engage with us and with your neighborhood to become, superheroes and help feed your neighborhood, but also build the relationships that will form the future of Kitsap County and possibly the country and possibly the world. Because as humans come together and push toward human things, it can only be better for all of us. Thank you very much. Bless you all. And I look forward to meeting you, and I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to blooming vegetables throughout Kitsap County. Have a great day.